Okay, so we're going to go through a tutorial on how to custom fit a Montana standard STL mask to a facial scan that was created with the Bellis 3D iPhone app. So first thing we do, we're in Mesh Mixer. I'll also tell you that there's probably a lot of different ways to make these masks. I've seen several of them online. This is just the particular technique that I've come up with over the last couple of days, and I wanted to share it with you. So first thing that I do is I bring the facial scan in Mesh Mixer, and usually what I'll do then is set the front view. And if you click on this area right there, we're going to set this as the home position and set this view as the front view. So now, however we're working on this scan, we can click home and it's going to come back to the front. I'm going to set it at right here actually. Okay, the next thing is sometimes your Bellis scan will come in solid, like mine did, and sometimes it'll come up actually hollow, and you can see through the head. For the technique I'm going to show you, definitely want to be able to see into the back of the head when we're custom fitting the mask. So if for some reason your scan comes in solid, you need to do a plane cut and make the head empty. So I'll show you how to do that. Basically, we're going to go to Edit, Plane Cut, zoom out a little bit here, and we can rotate this plane any way that we want, but I'm going to rotate it like this. Okay. All right, we have that basically where we want it. If we click that arrow, we're going to cut everything back that is clear and translucent. I'll even go a little bit further forward here. Okay, that should be fine. And now if you look on the upper left here, you want to cut the plane and discard the half. There's some other options here too. We also don't want it to fill back in. We want to hit no fill. We'll hit accept. And now I have my face scan unfilled and I can see the contours from the inside. What I also did before the video started is I remeshed my face. If you look at the density of the triangles here, they're very, very dense right now. A normal Bellis scan, when it comes in, you're going to see less triangles and you're going to see more space between the triangles, so that when we create the custom fitting part of the mask, it looks very choppy. So those calculations take a little bit of time, but we remeshed it, and I'll show you how to remesh because we're going to do it in one other step as well. So that's one thing that I did before we started because it takes a few minutes. If you hit the W button, you can look at the wire mesh or you can look at the surface. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring in our mask, and so we're going to add something else to this project. So we're going to click append and we're going to look for the file that has our standard masks. So I'm a small, so I'm going to click that. Okay, so now we have our standard mask here, and we're going to just leave that. This is the object browser, and when you click the eye, you can look at a data set or not look at it. Right now I'm going to not look at that because we're going to go ahead and start making the custom part of this mask that's going to fit against my face. So what we're going to do here is click select. This slider changes the diameter of our paintbrush here, and I'm going to basically just draw on my face. And this is going to be the area of the 3D printed mask that will be fitting my face. And we started doing that this way. We did several tests of these actually, and the first couple of tests we didn't do this. And we basically just morphed the edge of the mask to my face. And when we did it that way, It fit very well, but you could feel the kind of sharp edge of the plastic going into your skin. And you see doctors on TV, especially in other countries, when they've worked a shift with a mask that's tightly fitting against their face with a very thin edge, and you literally see that red kind of, almost their face is cut. So we decided let's maybe do this so that we have a flatter area to create a nice seal, and that we could use this mask for several hours without having that red mark on our face. Okay, so now I've basically just drawn this outline of a mask. What I'm going to do now is go to Edit, and we're going to offset it. I'm going to offset it about 0.2 millimeters. Okay, and so now that orange data set is 0.2 off of my face. Then I'm going to go back to Edit. I'm going to hit Separate. And now I have another object. So this spline that I drew is now its own object. So I have the face scan, I have the mask here, and I have this spline here. The next thing that we're going to do with this spline is I'm going to take my face away so that you just see the spline. Now that this is custom fit to my face, except it's offset 0.2 millimeters. Now we're going to hit Command A, and I'm going to extrude this item because right now it's only one layer thick, and I'm going to make it about 2.5 millimeters thick. And I click Constant and Offset so that it makes the whole thing larger by 2.5 millimeters. And then we have a little bit of a rough edge here. It's not perfect. We can make it look better by going to Modify and creating Smooth Boundary, and it's going to smooth it out just a bit. It's not perfect. There's other ways to take care of that, but I'm not too concerned with it. We can even just polish those little areas off in post-processing very easily. Okay, so I'm going to try to get through this efficiently to show you the steps. So now I have this spline, I have my face, and now I have the mask. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transform this mask, which just means I'm going to move it around the screen. So I'm going to go to Edit, Transform. Now what I want to do is basically test fit it against the contours of my face. So I should also explain that I'm doing these movements with a right click. A left click is not going to do anything here. So I'm going to do a left click, a right click here, but a left click to do these movements on the transform. And so each of these little arrows and curved lines will let you to rotate this object or to translate it along the X, Y, or Z axis. And I found here that the trick here is to get this mask test fitted as close as you can so that you don't have to do a lot of morphing in order to make it fit. And so I'm going to basically bring it like this, and I want to just bring it right into my face. And you can see it's coming through the other side. Don't worry about that right now. So I'm going to just rotate it. I just want to have as little morphing between the mask and my facial spline as possible. So let's move this out just a hair. This is why it's really useful to have the head not solid, so that you could look at it from the inside and move it as needed. So, okay, so this is pretty close. I can add this area back in, but you can see I don't have a lot of area that I need to morph. So I'm going to accept that here. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my face away again. Now all we need to do is basically blend the shape of the mask into the spline. And the way that I'm going to do that is with the Sculpt tool. Now, here's where I mentioned that I'm going to show you how to remesh. Now, if I look at the triangles on this standard mask, their density is pretty low and the triangles are pretty big. So if I try to sculpt this shape without doing anything to it, I prefer, so here we're under Sculpt, I go to Brushes, and we have a bunch of different brushes here. I usually use Move. And if I just sculpt this in, you're going to see you start to get a lot of these little wrinkles in here. It's almost like it's crinkled paper. And that's because we have a very large triangle size. And so that's not going to look good. It's very difficult to smooth that out. Command Z is going to be your undo. Okay, so before I morph this, I'm actually going to remesh the object. We're going to have a standard size filter that fits into the front area here, so we don't want to remesh anything there. I don't want anything to change here. I only want to do the periphery on this mask. So I'll show you how to do that now. So I will turn off my spline there, and I'm going to click select, and I'm just going to draw. We could go a little larger than this on our brush. Just going to draw the whole periphery. I'm going to stay away from the front area where the filter is going to fit. Very good. And once I go on this side, I will right click, go to the inside, and see there's a few areas that didn't get selected. And I'll just make sure because I want to remesh the whole periphery. And I like this. Now I'll go up to edit and you'll click remesh. So it's going to do some calculations and it's going to change the density and the number of triangles in that area, and it's going to allow us to morph it much smoother. Usually goes fairly quickly, almost done. And there we go. So that's going to come in here. If we click W, now you can see that we've completely changed the amount of triangles and the whole periphery, and now we're going to be able to morph that much easier. And we've left the anterior portion untouched. We're going to accept that. Okay, so now we're pretty much ready to start custom fitting this. If I click the scroll wheel on a scan, I can actually, on an object, I can move it around the screen. Now let's turn on my face again, and let's turn on my spline again. So now we click W. Let's start to move this into place now. So I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on the face mask, go to sculpt, back to move, and I'm just going to slowly basically start to drag this in. And just do this little by little. Sometimes the loops that are over here get warped. I can show you at the end how to add new loops if you need to. A lot of times I'll preserve them, but sometimes they get disfigured enough that I'm not going to use them. This is different for the shape of everybody's face, actually. So every one that I've done has been a little bit different. So I'm doing mine just because I've done it a few times now to show you. So I'm just going to try to make it as neat as I can, but also efficiently for time purposes here. Just want to show you the steps. You can spend a lot of time on this actually, but I'm going to do this one as quickly as I can to show you the steps so that you could try it yourself and teach somebody else how to do it in this time of need. I did see a couple of emergencies last week before I had these masks, and I was reusing the same one N95 that I happened to get from a patient. Actually donated it to me, and then I realized that if this is going to be going on for some time, there has to be a better way. When I'm done designing this, I'll also show you how we modified the filter piece to fit better than the standard ones. Other thing you can do is you can look at it from the inside and fold it in like this. So it helps to just rotate and pan around the screen. Almost done here. I'll show you what we do next. Fold this edge over here. All right, folks, we're almost at the point that we've got the whole thing sealed. You can see here it's still open a little bit. The way that we handle the front is look at it from the front view and basically pull straight down. You're going to keep pulling straight down until you see this brown frame come all the way through. And just make that nice and smooth. You kind of get the idea. And now is the point where I'm going to bring my face back in, because I know that my nose, there's no room for my nose here, so I'm going to just push it back out in that area just till we see the contour of my nose again. Come back to this side. You see I'm adding material back. Okay, we kind of get a general idea there. Oop, didn't like that. Okay, and let's see if I can just make this look a little bit nicer. Looks a little bulbous there, but I'm doing this quickly to show you the steps. Okay, so now we basically have everything set here. I think I'm going to bring this in like this. All right, so I have that extra material coming through. Let's do it on this side too. All right, I may bring this down as well. To this side. All right, so there's my general mask, and now I have my custom face frame and the standard mask basically meshed to it. If I was doing this for real, I'd spend a little bit more time and I would get this contoured just the way that I want. But the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my face scan. What I want to do is actually combine both of these parts. So right now they're two separate parts. So if I turn this off, there's my face scan. And there's the actual mask, the way that I adjusted it. You can see that. Let's bring them both together. And what I'm going to do is we're going to hit Command, and we're going to click on the other data set, and then you'll see this menu up here. So I'm going to click Combine. When I click Combine, now you see I only have two objects in the browser now. I only have the facial scan and I have the mask. It's basically brought both of these items into one now. Okay, but now we got to do something about this extra pieces that I've just kind of haphazardly brought into where my face is. So now I'm going to show you that's all the extra. We want to have the software trim this very precisely. And so the way that we're going to do that is we want to do something called Boolean difference. So the way that we do that is that we start with the object that we want to actually trim away. So we want to trim this away. So we go back to the object browser, we click Command, then pick the second data point. That same menu is going to come up, but this time we're going to click Boolean difference. And there we go. We basically trimmed all of that extra material away. We have the facial mask. And if we spent some more time, we could get this area more smooth. I'm not really worried about that for the purposes of this, because the part that's going to be touching the face is going to be very comfortable. It's going to be flat when it's printed. There's not going to be any sharp edges that are going to be getting in the way. And we can actually go ahead and print from here, but I would go back and fix this little hole in the bottom. Let's actually go back. Let's actually go back and fix that, because I don't want you to think that I left a big hole in it. Let's click move. We'll just move this down a little bit. Make sure that it's connected over here. Okay, we'll leave it like that for this. Let's do another difference real quick. And if we're doing for real, I would go back and I would fix that area. But you can see here, these are the general steps there. Okay, so I'm going to click accept. The real way that we would fix this, folks, is to actually go back to the point before I combined both of the data sets, and I would have dragged this underneath and then I would have combined them. So, okay, so I also want to show you the filter pieces. So if I add another piece, I'm going to hit append. And now you can see the small filter. This is the standard filter that comes with the files, right? And so we can actually transform this. Very good. And you can see how this is. So if you see that this is jumping very aggressively with my mouse, I can't get it really precise. You can change that with snap step here. So I'm going to change that to 0.1. Okay, and hit return. And now you'll see here I can move it very, very, very with a lot more refinement. So now I can rotate this and you can see how this is going to fit in here. Something like this, right? So and there's basically these little semicircular areas that provide some frictional resistance so that when you push this in, it doesn't come out the other side. Now, you're also going to have some filtration paper, 3M, MERV 13 or higher to get your N95 filtration capability. But I found that when we did this a couple of times that these little areas would wear off a little bit and then you'd have a much looser fit. So I wanted to actually make something so that when you pushed this through, that there was a positive seat here. And so I'll show you what I did and show you guys how you can do it. I did it only for the small so far, but I called them custom filters. And I'm going to show you what that one looks like. And here you can see what I did to it. Let's take away the mask. Okay, so now you can see here, see I added this little lip of material around the whole thing. So that now, if I'm going to put this one through, and you guys already know how to do this because it's all the same steps that we just showed you with making the actual mask, is this can come down, and this can go in, and it's actually custom fit into this area. And the way that we did that is we did the Boolean difference, the same thing that we did with the mask actually. So if I take the mask away, if I take the other custom filter away, or the standard filter rather, you can see that these edges right here are actually custom fit to the inner shape of the mask. It's actually fit into these areas, so there's a really positive seat. And so now when we go and actually assemble this mask, we're going to not use this one. Now we can apply the filter paper over the anterior portion here, and then we can push it through the mask. A little bit of the paper is going to come out here. We're using 2 to 3 layers right now, and there's a super positive seat when you push this in, and it's completely sealing. So that's basically the whole process of design for one of these masks. One other thing that I can show you is if you end up having to add different loops, the way that you can do that is you can add a mesh to this. So if you click Mesh Mix, There's some primitive shapes, they call them. They're just basic shapes. And so you can take this cylinder here, just put a huge cylinder here so we can size it down. The way that I'm doing this is that you click right in the center here, and I'm dragging my mouse to the left, and that makes a uniform size change. I can also make a uniform size change in this menu over here. I've enabled uniform scaling. So if I say I want the y-axis to be 10 millimeters, it'll basically fix the rest of it. And I'm going to just make it a little bit smaller just to show you. And then it's all the same steps there. So what we would do is we could move this over here. We're going to basically just get it in space where we want it. Maybe I would turn it like this. Okay, and then I'm just going to basically merge it right in. And you'll see on the other side it's just coming through a tiny bit. That's not a problem. And then now you know that if I wanted to make this part of the shape, I just hold the command key down, like click custom filter. Oh, not custom filter, hold on. I'm going to click the mask, and then I'm going to click this new mesh. This is our little thing here. I click combined, and now we have a mask that has a loop on it. And say I wanted to have 3 more, all I need to do is I would go back a step actually before I combine them. Before I combine them, I will hit this little duplicate button, and now I have another one. You can't see it because it's exactly the same. So if you click transform, you'll actually see you have another one. We can put that one there. We can copy it again. We can copy it again and have another one. Transform it. Bring it to the other side. Click accept. We can copy it again. Transform it. Bring it up to this side. Let's just say that's what we wanted to do. And now we can actually just hold the command button, click all these meshes, plus the mask. If I click the right one, click combine, and now we have a mask that has 4 loops on it that's been custom fit. The next step is basically to export this as an STL or an OBJ or whatever file format that you want to have. We usually print an STL or OBJ on our Formlabs. And that's the final step in creating this. I hope you found that was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my contact info in the bio. Thank you very much.